After years of turning a blind eye to alleged repression at home and complicity in atrocities abroad, it looked as though Western governments were finally getting tough with Rwanda. After a series of damaging reports by the UN and Human Rights Watch, Britain and the US announced they were suspending aid to Kigali. But in recent weeks, some of that aid has been restored, despite furious objections. So why the about turn? Is there a hidden agenda? That's what we're asking this week on Africa Today.
The British government has been criticised over its decision to restore aid to Rwanda. Western countries, including Britain, withheld support for Paul Kagame's government after aid agencies and a group of UN experts on Congo linked Kigali with rebel activities in eastern Congo. M23, a group of rebel soldiers who defected from the Congolese army earlier this year, are alleged to be committing human rights abuses against civilians. According to Human Rights Watch, M23 have been responsible for the rape and killing of civilians and to have executed those who have refused to join in the atrocities. Critics say Western guilt over the Rwandan genocide in 1994 have forced many of them to stay silent about human rights abuses and the alleged tyranny of President Kagame's government. Some analysts claim the UK's silence and continued support for the Rwandan regime is intended to deflect attention away from the looting of DR Congo's resources. Africa Today examines whether the UK's reinstating of aid to Rwanda is further exacerbating the suffering of innocent civilians in the DR.
Hello, I'm Henry Bonso and this is Africa Today. Of all the African countries receiving aid from Western governments, Rwanda was the one they were most proud of. For here was a nation whose visionary president, Paul Kagame, had taken it from recent genocide to stable government, one of the most influential on the continent. Here was money well spent. But when a succession of UN and human rights reports alleged the Rwandan government was supporting rebel groups in eastern Congo, Britain and America were embarrassed into suspending aid last summer. However, the British have resumed payments despite UN evidence that Rwanda may have been backing the notorious band of Congolese army rebels known as M23. So why the change of position and what might be its consequences on the people who've endured so much? With us to discuss this are Vava Tampa, Director of Save the Congo, John V. Karuranga, President of the Rwanda People's Party, and on the line from the Rwandan capital Kigali is Bob Mugabe, editor of the Great Lakes Voice newspaper. Thanks all of you for joining us. We're going to start off with you, Bob, as you're on the ground there. What's the response of the people there, and indeed government, to this news from Britain that payments can be resumed? You've got another 8 million that's come in, with a further 8 million next month. What are people saying about that?
Thank you very much for having me. Of course, the reaction from the people is like, finally, somebody from the West, somebody from the donors is understanding exactly what is going on the ground, relating Rwanda and the allegations of supporting M23 and Congo's crisis. It's like, according to the government and the people of Rwanda, it's like UN group of experts, they had a report. And again, this report was leaked.
Well, the report was certainly leaked, and it wasn't just the group of experts from the United Nations, it was Human Rights Watch and other aid agencies. Now, Bob Mugabe there says that the people of Rwanda and the government were relieved. Vava Tampa, were you relieved, or were you, like a number of aid agencies, disgusted that Britain has decided to resume its aid payments?
Absolutely disgusted. Now, let me be on record on this point. The coalition government has been on the wrong side of history on the issues of Congo and Rwanda. Time and time again, the coalition government has failed to take actions to sort of deter Kagame's continued support of militia gangs in Congo. Now, I don't think that is necessarily because David Cameron, William Hague, Justin Greenings are somehow anti-Congolese, but I simply think it's rather because of the coalition government's policies on that part of the world has been driven by blind optimism, are also sort of motivated by
blind optimism.
Guilt of genocide.
Guilt of genocide. You say, okay, blind optimism. You say blind, but they have quite a detailed knowledge of Rwanda. I mean, the Conservative-led government has had members who go to Rwanda regularly to support something called Project Umubano.
Indeed.
Many of them have, and they've been doing that for a number of years. They feel they know the country very well. It's surely not blind, is it?
But
they say the money is well spent.
Now, knowing the country very well does not mean that they understand the dynamic of the conflict in that part of the world. That is a simple fact. Now, one simple fact is, and I am arguably number one critic of Paul Kagame, but I must acknowledge this fact that Kagame has been incredibly great in spending money from Western countries. And for politicians in Britain and other parts of the world, that has been amazingly welcomed. And also there is a huge need in the Western societies to see an African country succeed. Yeah. And Rwanda, given its smaller size, was seen as this, an experiment to show the taxpayers in Britain that, listen, your money is being spent well and is being elevating people from poverty.
And apparently, yes, this is the thing. I mean, Rwanda apparently has done really well in reducing poverty, better than many other African countries.
Well, that is a fact. I cannot argue against that. But the simple fact remains is that Kagame has been supporting militia gangs to kill, rape and loot Congo's natural resources. Okay. And that is a historical fact which we need to acknowledge.
OK, well, John, you run a political party. You're here in the UK. Where do you sit on this particular point?
I think what I'm trying to say, or what I want to say, is that the British government probably understands well what is happening in Rwanda. I disagree with anybody else who could come here and say that Kagame is responsible for what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Good God, how could you possibly...
OK, wait a minute. Vava, one second.
At all.
Let John speak.
For one reason, is that on 29th of March 2009, when the so-called labor groups joined the Congolese government, no Congolese raised an issue that those are not Congolese people, that they are Rwandese. Mm-hmm. But then, eventually, Kabila's government refused to honor the agreement they made, and they made that agreement irrelevant. Then they decided to fight for their rights. We have to agree that those people, the so-called Tutsis, are not Tutsis, are just Congolese people, because they have been living there for centuries.
But John, you say that they needed to fight for their rights. The question is whether what they're doing is reasonable. Now, in a leaked report, we know about this report, we've been talking about it, it identified General James Karuranga, who is the defense minister of Rwanda, and they're saying that he is basically at the top of a de facto chain of command of the M23 militia, and he supports them with the blessing of the president. And they've done terrible, terrible things to defenseless people. They've been forcing children to fight. This is terrible and it's disgraceful.
You see, what you need to know, that in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we have a budget of 1 billion people to pay people who are doing absolutely nothing, to pay the corrupt UN soldiers who are based there, to pay the so-called bogus United Nations experts, you understand? So for them, they don't want peace and tranquility to be, to return in the eastern part of Democratic Republic of Congo. What they want there is a chaos, nothing more.
John seems not to understand at all what's going on in Congo at all. Your argument essentially exposes the greatness of your silliness. Now, let me put into perspective. The issues in Congo began in 1998 when Kagame created the RCD Goma. The RCD Goma became CNDP. CNDP became M23, M23. RCD Goma was the initial
militia gangs. You give us a lot of initials. Most people won't understand which organizations you're talking about.
RCD Goma was the initial militia gangs created by Kagame to say this is a Congolese rebel movement. Actually was made up of Rwandan soldiers, the vastly Tutsi soldiers. And then RCD Goma became CNDP, which was another militia gangs. When RCD Goma was tarnished for war crimes and crimes against humanity, they rebranded themselves, they became CNDP. And CNDP, again, after a lot of war crimes and crimes against humanity, rebranded themselves anew. And they became M23, which today has yet again rebranded brand itself as the Revolutionary Army in Congo.
We need to go to Kigali. We need to go to Kigali right now because, Bob, what is the response then of the government of Rwanda and indeed of the people to what Britain has done? We wanted to get a full answer from you earlier.
I think I will first need to clear something.
Yes.
We are not talking here about allegations. We should be talking about the facts. Because if the gentleman there is talking about Kagame creating rebel movements, Kagame also not only created that, but also trained the Congolese government. Himself, even President Joseph Kabila. Let me tell you, even the Congolese know themselves that it's Rwanda who helped them to liberate them from the ruthless Mobutu, who was misusing and a dictator. Let me leave about that. We are talking here about the international community, which has been misled by some reports, which are not even generally acceptable officially by United Nations. First of all, United Nations General Assembly, even the Security Council, is yet to confirm this report officially. So these are leaked reports. Now, the international community, some states like UK, European Union, and other countries like Germany and Belgium, they're taking their decisions of withdrawing aid basing on the leaked reports. Let's not talk about Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch is another issue. But let me talk about UN.
Well, you can't just dismiss Human Rights Watch. They're respected around the world. When they speak, people tend to listen. The big question is what's been going on in eastern Congo. And now that the British have resumed their aid to the government of Rwanda, is Mr. Kagame, are his defense chiefs going to see this as the green light to carry on doing what they're doing in eastern Congo?
I don't think that it's the government of Rwanda has vehemently denied the role and the supporting of M23. Number two is, it's the world and the international community will see that the reports I myself have been in Congo many times. We cover 7 countries of the region here, the Great Lakes region of Africa. Many times in Congo, better than everybody speaking there. I have been at the field. I don't want to say that this report is false and Kagame is right, but what I'm saying is, if the report which is being based on withdrawing aid, where the report should be officially published by UN and voted by United Nations.
Well, I'm sure it will be quite soon. I'm sure it will be, Bob. Thank you very much for the moment, Bob Mugabe, editor of the Great Lakes Voice newspaper. Let's have a look at what you've been saying to us via Facebook, emails and text messages. We'll start off with a Facebook post from Magoma in Chad. Magoma says, Rwanda is being used by the West and the US to get DRC minerals free of charge. Kagame is very stupid, like other stupid presidents used and dumped by the West. We have an email from Wakemi in New York. Wakemi says, why listening to Western sources? They do not seek peace in Africa. And finally, we have a text from Buemo in Uganda. Buemo says, Museveni is the head on this mission and they get full support from the USA. Keep your thoughts flowing to us. Email africa@presstv.co.uk and text to +44 7800 008086 and Facebook fan page Africa Today, Press TV London. Bob Mugabe, we're going to stay with you because it's not just about fomenting disorder and human rights abuses across the border in eastern Congo that Paul Kagame and his government is accused. Not just of that, it's also of repression at home. And last year, Scotland Yard here in this country took the extraordinary step of saying to a number of Rwandan exiles that they were in clear and present danger from the government of Rwanda, danger of being assassinated by the government of Rwanda. Now that's shocking. What would you say to that?
Look, I am not going to say that, look, everything is false. Some of the things about some of the press freedom, human rights, the human rights and violations and political space. Yes, some of the things are very true.
Are you, for example, Bob, free to criticize the president, free to criticize the government of Mr. Paul Kagame if you want to?
Yeah, but let me tell you, first of all, about the media in Rwanda.
You are.
Me, myself, I have been criticizing. Even you can read over my website, girlllikesvoice.com. I have been somehow a victim of this. And some of the journalists have left the country for their dear life. Some of the politicians have been claiming lack of political space, yes. But I think that's also true. But let me tell you about something else. If that is what UK and other Western countries are holding the aid about, I would say yes. But things concerning about M23 and the creation of revolutionary army in Congo and the conflict, look, who is behind Mai Yakutumba? Who is behind MRC? Who is behind Mai Janvier? Who is behind some rebel groups in Warikari? By the way, there is also some of the elements who perpetrated genocide in Rwanda called FDLR. They are still there and they are being used by Congolese government.
Okay, Bob Mugabe for the moment. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah,
I think Bob Mugabe has got it wrong. I mean, here's a simple fact, and this is a really critical point, and we need to treat it carefully. Here's a simple fact. No Congolese crossed the border to Rwanda in 1994 to kill in the genocide. We have received the Rwandan, Tutsis or Hutu, in their thousands over the many years we've lived together. Now, the simple fact is both the Hutus and the Tutsis have crossed the border and have been killing, raping, and looting Congo's natural resources. That is a simple fact. The Mai-Mai, we will deal with them. The Mai-Mai equally responsible for, war crimes and all of that, but they have been largely fighting against the Rwandan sort of invasions of Congo. That is a simple fact we need to recognize. Now, this is a critical point we need to look into. Another point is this. Whether Kagame has been supporting militia gangs or not, that is a critical fact which Rwandans need to accept if we are to rebuild our relationship. Because the simple fact is, Kagame is not going to be there in 10, 25 years' time. Congo and Rwanda will remain where we are for years. And one of the things I'm trying to do is to try to demystify the relationship between the two people. And one of the things you guys, the Rwandan, whether Tutsis or Hutu, need to do is to reach out and start criticizing your government.
Right, okay.
I think
John Karuranga.
I'm with you that there is a repression at home. My political party, for example, has been operating in exile because we are not allowed to be registered.
And President Kagame does not want you in the country.
That's right, because M23 have been in exile for over 52 years. I can't go home. And my parents died in exile. I have never got a chance.
So if you're not welcome at home, why would you be defending Paul Kagame?
No, I'm not defending Paul Kagame. I'm only defending the justice. Justice that Rwanda, although there is a repression at home, but it has nothing to do with going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Even though the interim UN report says so, it's been leaked, and it may confirm it. It's very unlikely to be radically different when it's finally presented.
The report has been commissioned by the people who are associated to genocide. Some members.
How do you mean? How?
Some members of the so-called expert report, the actual associated to the genocide, and there are people who are working with genociders. For example, you can see that the UN report has been leaked on several occasions. The intent is to try to see that actually the United Nations Sanction Committee should impose sanction on Rwanda. Just hold on. Even the invasion of yesterday, where the Congolese government attacked the M23, remember afterwards they said that they have found dead bodies dressed in Rwandan uniform. The intention of that was actually to try to tell the United Nations to see what is going on. Now we have found dead soldiers with dead bodies dressed in Rwandan uniform, that the sanction should be there. So the most important thing probably that we have to look at is that the Congolese government should try to sort out their problems.
Right, okay. Let's go to Bob Mugabe. You're desperate to get in. Bob. Bob, you're on the line still. Yes, go on. You wanted to continue.
Yes, I want to say that some of the issues in Rwanda, yes, Rwanda government is not as perfect as in heaven as it is concerned. But let me tell you about the issue of Congo. Somebody needs to be very careful and not even using the emotions. We need to see the facts on the ground. Number one is the UN group of experts wrote a report, and they did the investigations without giving a chance to the government of Rwanda to know what they are talking about, these accusations. So when the government of Rwanda also wrote their report, like counterattack, like explaining the version of Kigali government, then things were like, well, let us see what we can do. That's why you see some of the countries like UK and other countries are now unfreezing the aid. But let me tell you about this.
Very briefly, if you will, briefly.
Yes. If all the things, look, there is what the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Louise Mushikiwabo, Rwanda's spokesperson also, she wrote about the report about the chair of this group of experts. The chair of the group of experts has written many articles criticizing Kigali government in favor of the perpetrators of genocide who are based in Congo. Look, the Congolese government should be able to be bold enough to fight and bring all these perpetrators of 1994 genocide.
All right,
to keep
Bob
away
Mugabe, thank you. We're going to finish. No, we're going to finish in just a moment. But Vava Tampa, you want to save the Congo. How close are we to saving the Congo? Because this is a running sore.
No, I tell you what, I'm always the first to say Congo's biggest problems, our first problem is Joseph Kabila.
Your president.
Yeah, Joseph Kabila is the first problem. If we want to deal with the crisis in Congo, we need to deal with Joseph Kabila. And actually, personally, I have talked to many people and I've written on this issue privately that the kind of pressure we've been applying on Paul Kagame, I wish the same pressure were being applied on Joseph Kabila, because he's the basis, he's the causes of this issue. The crisis of leadership is the cause of this crisis. Paul Kagame is a symptom. So there is a chance, even if Paul Kagame was not present on this crisis, the killings, the raping and the looting could continue. That is a simple fact. No one denies that fact. However, what remains also true and what all the Rwandans must recognize and deal with is that their government has been sponsoring the killing, looting and raping of the Congolese in the name of protecting your people. In a sense, placing you and us in conflict.
Save the Congo, Vava Tampa, thank you very much indeed. That's what you think, but others here in this studio and on the line do not agree. Thank you very much indeed, and that's it for today. Thanks to all those of you who sent in comments to us. Email africa@presstv.co.uk or text us to +44 7800 00 8086. Messages will be charged at local operator rates. Many thanks to our guests. They were Vava Tampa from Save the Congo, John Karuranga, President of the Rwanda People's Party, and on the line from Kigali, the Rwandan capital, Bob Mugabe, editor of the Great Lakes Voice newspaper. Till the same time next week, thank you very much indeed, and we'll have another edition of Africa Today. Thank you very much for joining us.